Hello, and welcome to episode 269 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and let's start off with the NBA Finals preview, Jace. What do you think?
Well, let's talk a little bit about yesterday's game, because that was an exciting game.
Yeah, it was a very exciting game.
It started out kind of ugly, because the Celtics got up big early. And then, I hate to say the Heat, because I don't feel like the entire Heat team came back. I feel like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo came back.
That's pretty accurate.
Because Kyle Lowry did not come back. He was garbage. Hot garbage for the entire series for the most part.
And what I'll say is what I've noticed in every one of these games. There comes a time when the Celtics start throwing out threes from everywhere.
Yeah.
And they'll miss like 6 or 7 in a row, and then all of a sudden it's a game again. I mean, and guys that shouldn't be taking real long threes are taking real long threes. Just they're not good shots. So, I mean, sometimes Boston can just take really bad shots and just help you get back in the game. Because they miss a lot of layups. And, you know, I'm not big on the inside game of the Celtics.
No, and it's hard to, like, Tatum's a very weird player because he can look like one of the best 5 players in the NBA at times, and he did for a lot of this season. I mean, he was in the MVP conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times where he just doesn't, I don't know how to put it, you know?
Turns it on and off. I don't know. I agree with you. I agree. And then it seems like when he starts slowing down and Jaylen Brown goes wild, and sometimes he's real positive, sometimes he's real negative. I mean, there were so many travels in that game last night. I couldn't believe it. They didn't call any of them.
Well, Jaylen Brown can also not dribble for an NBA player on a perimeter.
Not at all. He's a terrible ball handler.
Like, I think, when we get into the preview, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Miami, but I think that's going to be a key to this series. But you look at the Heat and you wonder, because Jimmy Butler had to play all 48 minutes, and on that 3 to win it at the end, he came up a little bit short, which you would be if you're tired, And I'm sure they just needed somebody else to step up. Because I don't think you ideally want to play any player 48 minutes a game, but certainly not Jimmy Butler in his 30s.
No.
Because he was doing everything he could, and that's And I also was thinking when I was watching him, I think all the stuff I like about Westbrook, Jimmy Butler has. He's just kind of better.
Yeah, I mean, the shot that he took, the 3-pointer that would have put them ahead, that was a great shot.
Yeah, he came up short on the front iron. But I mean,
and
as far as
he doesn't come up short if he doesn't play 48 minutes.
You hope not. But you look at all the things we love about Russ, like terrible, awesome competitor, goes 99% all the time, thinks he's the best player on the court, but Butler does it with a little bit more poise and I guess basketball IQ. I don't even know what to say, clutchness, whatever.
And he can get fouled almost any time he wants, but not in a James Harden way.
Right.
In a smart way.
Yeah.
In a way that's a legit foul.
And in a way where, because it seemed like a lot of times there were those years when we were complaining about Harden, and there's plenty to complain about. Like, it seemed like he wasn't even trying to make the shot. He was just trying to get a foul, where Butler seems like he's always trying to convert the shot when he's getting the foul, too.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I guess we can finish our East preview. I mean, Boston got by Milwaukee, but they didn't have Chris Middleton. And then they got by a pretty banged-up Heat team. A couple of their
Boston's defense. I mean, Horford missed a game. Smart missed a game.
And Williams is really good. Robert Williams.
Williams does not look good to me.
No, but when he's on the court, he can be a really good player.
Yeah, he looked terrible yesterday.
Yeah, he did not look great. There's no question about that. He
looked like he was like one step behind everybody else. I mean, one time he's under the hoop, and then they just stole the ball from him before he could even go up, and he just looked really slow. I mean, he didn't play. I didn't look at the box score, but he didn't log many minutes yesterday.
No. And Marcus Smart, I mean, yesterday they won a game where he took the most shots, which is usually not a recipe for a win for the Celtics, but...
No. I mean, well, he got 3 crazy, too, in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit a couple, and then all of a sudden he missed like 4 or 5 in a row. He's best when he does that little mid-range thing in the lane, like a couple times when he spun off on a pick and roll and they gave him the ball in the lane. He was great. And he got them off to a good jump start to start the second half with a bunch of points in the third quarter.
Yeah. I feel like he's got that basketball IQ where he knows when the other guys don't have it. I think the only problem is
Yeah,
he feels
I'd
like
say that.
he can be the scorer when that's happening, and it seems like that's maybe only the case about half the time. Like when you look at a guy like Chris Paul, who I know came up short again in this playoffs, but typically he's the kind of guy that he's fine getting 15 points, 20 points a game, but if he notices everybody isn't doing it, at least in the regular season, he can just turn it on and get you 30. And I think Marcus has that gene in him. He just doesn't have the skill to score consistently in that role.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I liked him. I liked what's the other guard that comes in?
You got Pritchard, and then you got Grant Williams, the guy everybody
White.
hates.
White. Is it White?
Oh, yeah, Derek White.
Yeah, I like he's had some good spots on and off.
He's had some real bad spots too.
Yeah, he has.
And again, much like Jaylen Brown and really the whole Celtics team, outside of Marcus Smart, like they're not good fundamentally with dribbling. Which
No, and I think that's going to get them into trouble with Golden State.
yeah, as I guess we preview Golden State, who has a lot of bodies they can throw at you defensively, and a lot of really good defensive players. I think a team that's a bad ball handling team is not a very good matchup.
No, but I will say this: the one thing I am looking forward to in this series
Yeah,
is both teams play a lot of players,
yeah, they do.
and so that when you play a lot of players, it gives somebody the opportunity to step up and be that X factor. I just think Golden State probably has more guys that can be an X factor than the Celtics did.
And you've obviously got your trio, and I know because Clay's started to look a little bit better in a few games.
Yeah,
You got Steph, you got Clay, you got Draymond, but now I feel like you've got Jordan Poole, who's another really good player. I think Wiggins has been outstanding in these playoffs. I mean, he made the All Star team.
Too.
But he's been, I mean, he was great against Luka, but not just defensively. He played really good offensively. And then you got, Kuminga getting minutes as a rookie, Jordan Poole, Looney. I mean, they're a very deep team.
Very deep team, and an athletic team, and a confident team because they've got that championship pedigree, that championship experience. And Kerr's a great coach.
Yeah.
Although I like the Celtics coach a lot, I think he was a better on the court coach than Brad Stevens.
I think he was. And, he got a lot of shit at the beginning of the season because he wasn't, he was yelling at players and he seemed like he was trying to, make them tougher in sort of that old school way that, the modern player supposedly doesn't respond to. And they responded.
Yeah.
I mean, they won the most games in the second half of the season. So if you're looking for pop, it clearly sounds like we're both leaning Warriors, which I am.
Yeah, I am. I think if it's a good series, it goes 6. I don't think it goes 7.
But as I pointed out to you off the air, I think the only team in the NBA with a winning record against the Warriors over the last 3 seasons is the Celtics.
Yeah.
And they do keep winning, and they won the most games after the All-Star break in the NBA, and they had the best defensive rating, and they've. But I do think it's going to be a 5 or 6 game series, and I think the Warriors are going to win a couple games handily.
I'll be curious as to who guards Steph.
I assume some combination of Marcus and White. I mean, when they're on the floor.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, if Horford is healthy, if Robert Williams is healthy, and they've got a few more days to rest, that's a big difference for the Celtics. Because then that gives them
difference. Because they can't win with the Robert Williams that was there yesterday.
No. And they need the
Horford. Williams that was there yesterday. He wasn't good yesterday either.
No. And they need the Horford from last series when he was just, the best player. He was kind of the MVP of these playoffs up till now, you could argue. But yeah, I think we both like that. Yeah. And then
I like watching Big Al play though. He plays hard for somebody as old as he is.
He does. And he's always been a more quiet Draymond, a guy that plays good defense, high basketball IQ, just does all the right, all the basketball things you want on the floor. So, shout out to him.
Shout out to him. Shout out to the Celtics. I mean, in the Warriors, both of them, playing well going in should be a great series. I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah. And then, we have friends and family in Orlando. We both lived in Orlando for a short time. I went to school there, and they got the first pick in the draft.
And who, if you had first pick a draft, knowing what Orlando has on the roster, who's your guy?
Well, I've sort of bought into the Jalen Smith hype. Besides being I think he shot 42% from three. He's 6'10". He's a pretty good defender. And then I saw some interview with him, and he has that sort of demeanor that you want in an NBA player. He's got a little Mamba mentality, if you will. And
They need that because I don't think there's a clear leader on that team.
no. And, he did come up a little bit short, but Auburn had terrible guards. But whenever he got the ball, he was pretty dominant. And I think the Magic, with Fultz and White and some of the other guys are pretty decent on the perimeter. You've already got, maybe Jalen Suggs makes a leap in late year two, but I think they might have missed on that pick. But I think Jalen will be nice next to Franz Wagner, and Isaac, if he ever comes back, I think fits. And he fits a lot of the Magic criteria. He's a tall guy with length.
Yeah. So is next year the year the Magic get out of the lottery?
I don't know. The East is pretty deep because you're still going to have Miami, Milwaukee, Boston from this year, I think Brooklyn bounces back in some way. The Hawks made the conference finals the year before. It's hard to say. I mean, I think they could be in that, that 6, 7, 8. Obviously with the play-in, it sort of changes everything now because now you just got to be a top 10 team.
Yeah.
And I at least feel like they're a play-in team.
Okay. Which would be progress.
It's just progress, yeah.
I mean, look how many times, you're drafting in that top, you've had a top 10 pick for how many years in a row?
Yeah, and as I said, they had obviously the great luck when they got Shaq and Penny in back-to-back years.
Mm-hmm.
But then the last few years, even when they've had the high pick, they in a 4-player draft, they get the 5th pick. And,
Yeah.
Last year, again, as of right now, it looks like Suggs was not a great pick at the 4th spot. When you look at least the 2 guys that came directly after him. Because they could really use a guy like Scotty Barnes on this team.
Right.
Or a Kuminga in the future, it's hard to say, because Kuminga's obviously part of the Warriors culture, just like Heat culture and,
Mm-hmm.
winning organizations.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun. You brought up Wiggins, which reminded me yesterday I was looking at, teams that made some bad trades or lost some bad players, right?
Right.
And so I was looking at the Timberwolves, and I was looking at Wiggins, I was looking at Zach LaVine.
And don't forget that Wiggins trade, they ended up with Russell from the Warriors, and then they got, or what is it? That was a trade, right? And they gave up a 1st-round pick.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just a bad play.
Yeah. But I had so my pirate thing is, my pirate addiction is so bad. But I looked at what the pirate pitching rotation could be.
Oh.
And you look at Garrett Cole, Joe Musgrove, Charlie Morton,
Mm-hmm.
Jameson Taillon, and Tyler Glasnow.
Yeah, which is what it was supposed to be at one point.
Clay Holmes in relief, and all those guys are in the top categories in the league, sure.
Yeah.
Except for Glasnow, who's hurt.
The Pirates have been like everybody's farm system for a long time now.
Yeah.
And they always get...
And they're doing a good job, but they're just not developing whatever they get back in exchange.
No, yeah, you look at... Because there's been... The pitching especially, like, those are the... when it was Cole and Talion, that was going to be your 1-2 for the next, 10, 12 years, provided they stay healthy.
Yeah. And you get Musgrove in the Cole deal, which is a good return. And then he's like leading the league in ERA. He's like 5-1.
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. So I'll go to women's softball.
Okay.
And one of the things that's interesting, they seeded the teams 1 through 16. And in the top 8, if you hosted a regional, you got to host a super regional. If you won your regional, you hosted the super regional. So it's interesting to me that out of the 16, or out of the top 8, only 4 advanced. Only 4 of the teams that had the home field advantage for both rounds advanced. So that was interesting. And then we got 3 teams from the Big 12, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas. We have 3 teams from the Pac-12, Oregon State, UCLA, and Arizona. We have 1 team from the Big 10, Northwestern, and we have 1 team from the SEC.
Yeah.
So SEC was expected to have, dominate, and they didn't. I mean, Alabama was a high seed, they got upset by Stanford. By Stanford. So interesting to see. Oklahoma's only lost 2 games all year. I don't see anybody beating Oklahoma. I just don't. You hit almost 400 as a team, and you lead the world in home runs, and you're playing 30 minutes from your campus.
That's pretty sweet.
You've already played on that field quite a few times, so I just think Oklahoma wins. But I'm real proud of Oklahoma State for winning their super regional and regional and winning a Big 12 title, and it would be nice to see it come down to those 2 teams, but it's not going to happen. Oklahoma will win.
Well, that's a shame.
And then baseball starts with the regionals this week. And I watched Tennessee yesterday. They're the number 1 team. They're 50-something and 7. And, I mean, they're ridiculous. They've got great pitching, great hitting. They won the SEC tournament. They won the SEC regular season. So I would have to say they look like a strong favorite going in. But, great pitching stuff's great hitting. So if somebody's got a core pitching, we'll have to see. But they'll announce all the teams today. So I always look forward to the NCAA baseball and NCAA softball. So this is a good time of year for me.
Yeah. Well, this is something maybe our audience can write in with their theories, and then we'll talk about it next week. But I was thinking about baseball again recently, because I'm old enough that in my lifetime, baseball was at least part of the big 3, right? Yeah, for a while it was football, basketball, baseball, in some order. And I don't know anything about baseball. I saw Shohei Ohtani. He came up on my Bleacher Report. He had a home run yesterday, and there's talent in the league. But obviously, I hear a lot of NBA talk, a lot of NFL talk. And honestly, at this point in my life, I feel like I hear more golf, tennis, racing, MMA. Like, baseball just isn't a part of. I mean, for you and the audience for next week, where did they go wrong? We can, marinate on that.
We can marinate on it. I mean, it's slow. Too many stoppages. I'll be watching. I was watching an NBA game and an MLB game. Well, I can watch 3 or 4 minutes of an NBA. A commercial comes on, I'll switch.
Yeah. And
I remember watching 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of an NBA game, and I came back and maybe they're on the second batter in the MLB game. I mean, it just doesn't move well. There's just too many things that just take too much time. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I remember, as a kid, baseball was discussed. And that was...
Yes.
And again, I wasn't even thinking about Premier League. There's just so many things that have, And again, granted, we run in, the circles you run in. So, I mean, obviously more video game oriented. But I hear more esports talk than baseball talk. And it's sort of baffling considering where it was at one point in my lifetime. And obviously it's still making money. And there's people still watching.
Here's what I would say to you. Remember when we had your birthday party at a Pirate game?
Yeah.
And you got Tim Raines autographed baseball?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. If I had grandchildren now, I probably couldn't convince them to have their birthday at a baseball game.
No. Maybe that
was a Savannah Bananas game.
Yeah, Savannah Bananas, who are blowing up on social media. I could see you getting that going.
Yeah.
But they've got a very Harlem Globetrotters.
They'd want to go to a soccer match, or they'd want to go watch an esports match or something else. But I think it'd be hard to get, maybe minor league baseball because it's more fun.
Yeah.
But a major league game, unless you were you could go see Ohtani or Aaron Judge or a real superstar that's going to jack home runs in the video game, it'd be tough to get kids to want to say, hey, I want to do this for my baseball. I want to do this for my birthday party.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's very true. And again, I mean, it's
the appeal. I mean, we went to the game the other night, the Angels game. The Angels were playing the Rangers. And when Ohtani was up, I mean, there was a real feeling in the crowd, right?
Right.
A real feeling. So he gets up the first inning and he walks. Then he steals second. And then he scores on a single. I mean, he's fast. He can run too.
He's incredible, yeah.
But then he struck out 3 times, and then Trout struck out 3 times. So what I went there to see, I didn't get to see.
Yeah.
But there's a noticeable difference in the atmosphere of the crowd when the superstar comes up. And then, and Ohtani has really galvanized the Asian community. And I mean, the turnout of Japanese fans and Asian fans in general, and the Ohtani jerseys, and running down to take photographs and videos and everything was impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got it.
Yeah.
But not every team has that.
No. Where the NBA is getting close to every team having that. The NFL, I think, at least has it in theory,
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I've already
baseball
seen
has more have-nots than the other sports.
Yeah.
And baseball's not set up that, like Oklahoma City's down, but they've got a bazillion picks over the next couple of years. If they make the right picks, they'll be right back at the top.
And you still have guys to watch on that team. You still got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You got Josh Giddey. Like, you've got some nice young players that you can root for,
Yeah.
Like, those are 2 guys I'd be excited to root for. They're great players. They understand the game. They pass well. That Giddey's got a good look. And again, like you said, they've got, I think, 47 picks in the next 5 years. So it's like, they got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, got to do something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he'd even, if he didn't like New Orleans, he probably wouldn't like Oklahoma City. But I mean, if they're not going to give Zion a max deal, I mean, maybe Oklahoma City just throws have 40 picks.
You could give a lot for him. You could give more for Zion than anybody else,
and it wouldn't even hurt you because you can't pick that many players.
You might not even realize how much you gave away.
Yeah. Because again, you got Zion, Giddey, Gilgeous-Alexander. All of a sudden, that's a squad.
Yeah.
That's a 5 seed, 6 seed, somewhere in that range. Yeah. Well, we haven't had one in a couple weeks, so Steeler moment.
Okay.
I've read a lot of opinion pieces, and then I watch people argue online, but I do kind of agree that, like, you drafted 2 quarterbacks this year, you signed 1 in free agency. Now, clearly moving forward with what you want to do, you didn't think Mason was the guy, right?
Right.
You don't go sign Trubisky on day 1 and draft Pickett in round 1.
If you think you have the answer.
If you think you have the answer. I think they need. I don't see this 3-way battle. Like, I feel like it's in name only, and I think it's one of those old school coaching decisions where it's like we're throwing everybody's hat in the ring and letting them go. But it's like you drafted Pickett number 1 overall with your first pick this year. He's going to be 24 at the start of the season, not 21, not 22, 24. He's a 5th-year senior. Like, you took him high. Like, you need to get that guy ready. And it should be a 2-man battle.
There's not really a way you can give reps to 3 quarterbacks.
You can't. There's no way to give, and it's like, that's why I know it's early in camp, but I feel like, even if you just like Mason as a person, like, let him go. You've got the other kid you drafted in the 7th round. You can, get another Duck Hodges or somebody off the scrap heap to be your, 4th arm in camp, but you need to let the battle between Trubisky and Pickett go, and then hopefully get Pickett enough reps that he takes it from him, because that's what you drafted him for.
And as much as I want Mason to have a fair chance, I have gotten to the point where I agree with you. It's just not going to happen.
And again, if you drafted Malik,
so you need to do something.
If you drafted Malik Willis at 21, a raw guy coming out of a small school, fine. You figure he's probably going to ride the pine for 2 years. You get him as much reps as you can, but then you let Mason and Trubisky battle it out, and maybe you need him as a backup because you don't want Wilson to live. But you didn't. You took the 24-year-old kid. So I don't know. That's our Steeler moment for the week. I feel like we had to get that in there.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, and then the other.
I'm excited to see how it plays out.
And then our Steeler adjacent moment. Antonio Brown has announced he is not going to play football this year.
Okay, and I'll announce I'm not running for president.
Okay. Well, now we have those 2 things cleared up.
Yeah, we have cleared up. So, what did Antonio Brown say? What he is going to do this year?
I think he's going to do more rap. I mean, he seems like he's ripe for his own. He's got to be on like Real Housewives or,
Oh, he'll be on a reality show.
I mean, a reality show, another breakdown. I mean, he seems like he's ripe for that world. So
he is today's Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, but Dennis Rodman seemed more fun. He was out dating Carmen Electra and wearing dresses, whereas Antonio Brown is beating people with bats and throwing bicycles around.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe he's almost too much of a liability for reality TV. We're like, I don't know about this guy. He brings the wrong kind of crazy.
That's true, but he will end up on. Well, Ray Lewis is on Survivor now, right?
Yeah, but Ray Lewis, I mean, he really just had the murder.
Yeah, but I mean, Antonio Brown could be on Survivor.
Yeah, I think so.
But he might get thrown off the island pretty quickly, though.
Oh yeah, I think I just thought it was funny that he announced that he's not going to play this year. Although
about football, how about the NFL has finally decided that the Pro Bowl doesn't work, and they're reviewing other alternatives to the Pro Bowl.
I'm telling you, a goofy decathlon is what I want to see with
it's absolutely
trivia, spelling bee,
ABC Superstars competition, and that would be perfect.
Yeah,
but you can't do because people aren't going to. They just grab you and hug you and hold you up and run you out of. It's not the same. It's not football.
No, and they don't want to hurt each other. They don't want to get hurt. There's too much on the line.
Yeah.
And again, you look at guys that have made the Pro Bowl, and it's like you've got your All-Pro team, and that's what really matters because the Pro Bowl you're getting like the 6th or 7th alternate because
they don't want to go.
They don't want to go.
So I'll be curious. I mean, the NBA reinvented the slam dunk, or reinvented some of these competitions. They still need some evolution in their all-star thing.
Yeah.
But the NFL really, more than anybody, needs to fix theirs.
But I mean,
it's just a bad game.
I think the NFL. You've got a lot of really beloved personalities. You got famous people like to watch. I mean, like I said, if you do like a trivia contest, a paintball game, I mean, hide and seek, you could literally do anything and people would watch it because it's the NFL. But you could have a lot of fun with goofy stuff where players you're not putting them at risk to get hurt. And then and
you're taking the helmets off of them and letting people see them and maybe get a more increased fandom and increased player identity. So I think there's a lot to be said for it. So hopefully they come up with a good idea, a good solution.
I mean, I'm having an esport as part of it because
yeah,
NFL players love video games. We're playing Madden. We're playing Overwatch. Cool. We're playing Smash. We're playing whatever we can get a hold of because you're going to bring in the youth to watch that. I think at that point, I think trivia is always fun.
Cornhole, you can have a weightlifting competition. Who throws the longest pass? Who throws the hardest pass? Who throws the fastest pass? Who's the most accurate? Who's the fastest route runner? You can do everything.
Yeah, kicking contests for non-kickers. I mean, there's just so much fun you can have. And those are all things I would watch. And as much as I love football.
You've hit on it. Watching the Pro Bowl is not fun. And that's the key. It's not fun. It's not fun for the players, and it's not fun for the viewers.
No.
So there you go. We would love to have some people write us or text us and give us suggestions for how to improve the Pro Bowl.
Because there are really anything at this point. Charity softball game.
Anything.
I mean, I would watch an NFL softball game before,
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
It just has outlived its thing. I mean, in the old days, when players weren't making any money, that was a good game to play because they could make some extra money.
And get a free trip to Hawaii for their family.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
You can't pay them enough money to put them in a position where they want to risk their career.
No.
And that's what you're doing anytime you play a game.
Yeah. Oh, before you give your food moment, I forgot to do a food moment. It's a classic food moment. It's not far because nothing in New Orleans is far away, but Pizza Delicious was my first favorite pizza when I moved down here.
Uh-huh.
And it's a nice New York style with good crust. And I had just, it's a good 25-minute drive to go. So if you're going to go, you're probably better off eating it there than leaving your car for 25 minutes, But I went, I got it, and it was Pizza Delicious was delicious. And I guess I just had slept. I think I kept putting other places that were closer to me above it. But if you're from New Orleans, pizza delicious. You're not going to go wrong. It's delicious, just like the name indicates. So
Sometimes you got to make the drive.
yeah, sometimes you got to make the drive. And again, it's a
All
20-minute drive. It's not.
My first night in Newport Beach last Tuesday, we went to Mama D's. Absolutely one of my favorite places anywhere. And I had the chicken and sausage and bow tie pasta. And it's outstanding. Really good. And then Thursday night went to L.A. and went to Dantana's, which I think is a Rat Pack restaurant, real famous celebrity places. I mean, Jerry West Jersey, there's all kind of things hanging in there. I mean, it's in whatever night you go. There was an article in the paper 50 years later, and there's still a line every night. I mean, so we had reservations. We went there. There's only 17 tables. And Dan had lobster fra diavolo that was outstanding, and I had chicken parm, which was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing to me is Dan Tana was a professional soccer player from Yugoslavia. And he was the maitre d' at a real famous LA restaurant called La Scala. And then he ended up getting a chance to buy this restaurant. So he bought this restaurant, and it's called Dan Tana. Well, I don't know that there's anything unique about the name Dan Tana. But do you know that he was paid for the use of this name for the Robert George character in Las Vegas, who was named Dan Tana?
I did not.
Now, that seems kind of crazy to me, but he was paid so they could use his name. They didn't use the restaurant. They just wanted the name Dan Tana.
Yeah, that seems weird.
So I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
And then my third food moment is a place called John and Vinny's, which nobody had been to before. Not my son Dan, not my niece Kaylee. And so we decided to go there because it was close to the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we went there and we had pizza, pasta, and salads, and they were all outstanding. So 3 great food moments. So if you're in LA, John and Vinny's or Dan Tana's. If you're in Newport Beach, Mama D's. But the Academy of Motion Pictures Museum was really cool. It's been open less than a year. I saw an exhibit on Japanese animation, which I knew Jason would love if he would have seen it. And every time we see Japanese animation, Jason, you know what I think of immediately? Speed Racer.
Yeah.
Because they all have those eyes. I mean, I don't know if that's a mandatory requirement for animation in Japan, but that eye look.
It's pretty synonymous. I mean, it's not across the board anymore, but it is still pretty synonymous, yeah.
Yeah. So we saw that, saw some Star Wars exhibits, and saw an exhibit on movies from outer space or about space. It was pretty cool where they have a line that would originate in the 20s or 30s, like, how do you speak, when an alien shows up and they say, how do you speak our language? And then they would show a riff of about 20 films in a row where they just show that one line. It's kind of cool. It was a lot of fun seeing that. I saw Dorothy's Ruby Slippers from The Wizard of Oz. C-3PO and R2-D2 were both there. Nice. Predator. There's a lot of really cool things. So if you like movies, it's a really cool thing. And they have a bunch of different things that you can watch that are clips and everything. So, I mean, it's a quick 2 hours. It's timed admission. Okay. But that was a lot of fun, too. So
timed admission. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty cool. And like I said, my entertainment moment is Stranger Things Season 4, Part 1. If you're in on the Stranger Things thing, like, it's out. It's as enjoyable as the rest of it. It's a little awkward this season because they're all separated into different areas. And it's much more, here's 3 of them, here's 2 of them, here's 3 of them all together, apart.
Yeah, and I've still got 3 episodes of Bosch left, and like I said, I would highly recommend that. And then Jason's recommendation to me of a book called A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham is a very, very good book to read. So that's my book recommendation.
That's what I'd heard. It was a very good, quick read. Like almost a combination beach read, mystery read.
Other than that, I'm getting ready to watch the NBA Finals and the NCAA Baseball Regionals and the Women's College World Series. So it's June is always a good month for me.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, we are coming on we're starting to slow down sports news-wise. So anybody that has any topics they'd like discussed, hit hit my dad up, and we'll talk about him.
Absolutely. Have a good week. Enjoy your holiday and honor the vets.